Football is a game built on courage, speed, and high-speed collisions. Every Sunday, players put their bodies on the line for glory. Most of the time, they rise, walk, and they play again. But sometimes, the hits don't just change the game, they change everything. Chuck Hughes, 1971. It was October 24th, 1971, Lions vs. Bears at Tiger Stadium. Detroit receiver Chuck Hughes had just run a route late in the game. As he jogged back toward the huddle, he suddenly collapsed near midfield. At first, players thought he was shaken up. Then they realized he wasn't moving. Bears linebacker Dick Butkus frantically waved to the sideline, summoning trainers. Silence swept over the stadium. Hughes had suffered a fatal heart attack, later determined to be linked to undiagnosed arteriosclerosis. He was 28 years old and left behind a young family. To this day, Hughes remains the only NFL player to die on the field. The moment left players and fans shaken. It was a chilling reminder that football is not just a game of toughness, but of mortality. In its aftermath, the NFL expanded sideline medical presence, ensuring doctors and emergency protocols were in place for every game. These changes have saved countless lives in years since they were put in place, but sadly, they were not on hand to help Chuck Hughes on this tragic day. Darryl Stingley, 1978. It was August 12, 1978, a preseason matchup between the Patriots and the Raiders. Wide receiver Darryl Stingley ran a crossing route across the middle, the most dangerous territory in football. As the ball sailed past him, Raiders safety Jack Tatum delivered a devastating hit. The collision was clean under the rules of the era, but Stingley never got back up. He was rushed to the hospital, where doctors delivered grim news. Stingley was paralyzed from the chest down. At just 26 years old, his NFL career was over before it truly began. The image of a young star struck down in a meaningless preseason game shook the league to its core. Though no immediate rule changes followed, Stingley's tragedy became one of the most cited examples in debates over player safety. His paralysis forced the NFL to begin reckoning with the violence of head and neck contact, laying groundwork for future bans on helmet-to-helmet hits. Stingley would spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair, becoming an advocate for player safety. Joe Theismann, 1985. November 18, 1985, Monday Night Football. A national audience tuned in as Washington faced the New York Giants. Quarterback Joe Theismann dropped back for a flea flicker. But before the play could develop, Lawrence Taylor came crashing down from the blind side. Taylor dragged Theismann down awkwardly, and in the tangle of bodies, Theismann's right leg snapped horrifically. Millions of viewers recoiled as the replay revealed the fracture, a bone protruding from under the skin. His leg bent at a gruesome angle. Lawrence Taylor, one of the fiercest players in NFL history, instantly leapt up and waved for medical help. Theismann's teammates gathered in shock. His career was over on the spot. The injury became one of the most infamous in sports history. It was replayed endlessly, seared into public memory as a symbol of the sport's dangers. In the aftermath, the NFL and coaches began reevaluating protections for quarterbacks, particularly from blindside hits. Over time, this led to stricter roughing the passer calls and new emphasis on protecting passers in vulnerable positions. Tim Krumrie, 1989, Super Bowl 23. On January 22, 1989, the biggest stage in football, Super Bowl 23, Bengals vs. 49ers. Just minutes into the game, defensive nose tackle Tim Krumrie went in for a routine tackle. As he wrapped around the ball carrier, his leg was pinned awkwardly beneath the pile. On impact, both the tibia and fibula snapped, the bones twisting visibly as he writhed in agony. Television cameras caught the sickening scene in real time, and millions of viewers turned away in horror. Teammates gathered, some unable to look, while trainers rushed in. The Super Bowl, meant to be football's celebration, was suddenly clouded by the league's brutal reality. Krumrie's injury became one of the most infamous moments in Super Bowl history. Remarkably, after extensive surgery and rehabilitation, he returned to the Bengals the very next season. But his injury put a spotlight on the dangers facing linemen, who absorbed violent collisions on every play. In the aftermath, the NFL began looking more seriously at rules to protect against chop blocks and low hits, which frequently caused catastrophic leg injuries. Crumrye's courage to return was celebrated, but his broken leg on football's biggest night remained one of the darkest images ever broadcast on live television. Mike Utley, 1991. November 17, 1991. The Detroit Lions hosted the Los Angeles Rams, a critical late-season matchup. On a seemingly ordinary play, guard Mike Utley dropped into pass protection. In the chaos of the pocket, he absorbed a hit that sent him awkwardly to the turf. As he lay face down, teammates tried to help him up, but Utley couldn't move. The stadium grew silent. Trainers immobilized him as teammates formed a circle around their fallen brother. Then, as Utley was carted off, he raised his right hand with a thumbs up. Hours later, doctors confirmed the devastating news. Utley was paralyzed from the chest down. His career was over at age 25. Utley's injury was a chilling reminder of how quickly life can change in the trenches. The league responded by increasing awareness and training for spinal cord trauma, adding more medical specialists to sidelines, and studying blocking techniques to reduce catastrophic risk. Though he never walked again, Utley's resilience inspired millions. His thumbs up became an enduring symbol of courage, one of the most unforgettable images in NFL history. Dennis Byrd, 1992. On November 29, 1992, the New York Jets faced the Kansas City Chiefs. Defensive lineman Dennis Byrd rushed off the line, angling for the quarterback. But in the chaos of the play, Byrd collided headfirst with a teammate. He crumpled instantly, motionless on the turf. Players waved for help as trainers rushed in. Byrd's body was limp, and the crowd at Giant Stadium fell silent. He was carted off with his neck stabilized, later diagnosed with a fractured vertebra that left him paralyzed. At just 26, Byrd's career was finished in a split second. What followed was a long fight, an inspiring one. After months of rehabilitation, Byrd regained the ability to walk. He later became a motivational speaker, using his story to inspire players and fans alike. For the NFL, Byrd's injury was another wake-up call. The league doubled down on emergency spinal protocols, ensuring that every stadium was equipped with specialized gear and trained personnel for catastrophic neck and back injuries. His tragedy accelerated helmet redesigns, making head and neck protection a renewed priority. Though Byrd never played again, his resilience and recovery made him a symbol of hope. His fall was one of the game's darkest moments, and his walk years later, one of its brightest. Napoleon McCallum, 1994. It was September 5th, 1994, a Monday Night Football showcase between the Raiders and 49ers. Running back Napoleon McCallum carried the ball into a pile when disaster struck. His leg bent backward, grotesquely, pinned beneath tacklers. The knee dislocated violently, rupturing arteries and tearing multiple ligaments. The broadcast replayed it once, then quickly stopped. The injury was so severe that doctors initially feared McCallum might lose his leg. Emergency surgery saved it, but his football career was finished. After the incident, the NFL placed greater emphasis on tackling technique, particularly around the legs. Over time, rules tightened on dangerous twist-down tackles and chop blocks, both of which placed players' knees at risk. Reggie Brown, 1997. On December 21st, 1997, the Detroit Lions hosted the New York Jets in a game with playoff implications. Late in the first half, linebacker Reggie Brown collapsed after a pile-up near the goal line. At first, it looked like a routine collision. Then teammates realized Brown wasn't breathing. Panic set in. Trainers sprinted onto the field, joined by paramedics. CPR was administered in front of thousands of stunned fans. As players knelt in prayer and wept openly, the Silver Dome fell silent. After several tense minutes, Brown was stabilized and rushed to the hospital, diagnosed with a severe spinal cord injury. Though he survived, his career was over. The incident underscored the urgent need for immediate medical readiness in the NFL. In its wake, the league mandated stronger emergency action plans, including CPR-trained personnel and spinal boards at every game. Though he never played again, Brown's story became a catalyst for improved sideline emergency response. a legacy far larger than football itself. Drew Bledsoe and Mo Lewis, 2001. September 23, 2001. The Patriots faced the New York Jets. Quarterback Drew Bledsoe scrambled toward the sideline when Jets linebacker Mo Lewis delivered a crushing hit to his chest. Bledsoe got up, but something was wrong. Minutes later, he collapsed on the bench. Doctors later revealed the hit had lacerated a blood vessel, causing internal bleeding and a collapsed lung. The injury was life-threatening. He spent days in intensive care, his season, and potentially his career, in jeopardy. That single play changed the course of NFL history. In stepped a young backup, Tom Brady. The rest became legend. Brady never relinquished the starting job, leading New England to its first ever Super Bowl victory that season, and sparking a dynasty that would last nearly 2 decades. For the league, Bledsoe's near-fatal injury highlighted the risks of quarterback exposure outside the pocket. Over time, rules evolved to protect QBs on scrambles, particularly near the sideline. Kevin Everett, 2007. September 9, 2007, opening day in Buffalo. On the opening kickoff of the second half, Bills tight end Kevin Everett sprinted downfield to make a tackle. The collision looked ordinary at first, but Everett immediately collapsed and lay motionless. Everett had suffered a severe cervical spinal cord injury. At first, doctors feared paralysis from the neck down. However, after he underwent emergency surgery that night, and thanks to groundbreaking cold therapy treatment and a quick on-field medical intervention, Everett regained movement. Remarkably, he would eventually walk again. His career, however, was over. For the NFL, Everett's injury reinforced the critical importance of rapid response neurology teams and reinforced the need for full spinal trauma protocols at every game. Everett never played again, but his recovery was hailed as a medical miracle. His fight turned tragedy into inspiration. Tom Brady, 2008. September 7, 2008. The defending AFC champion Patriots took the field in Week 1. On their first drive, quarterback Tom Brady dropped back to pass. Chief safety Bernard Pollard lunged low, striking Brady's left knee. The hit tore his ACL and MCL, leaving him writhing on the ground. Just like that, the NFL's biggest star was lost for the season. The sight of Tom Brady limping off the field shocked the football world. New England, 1 year removed from a 16-0 regular season, had to play without his franchise quarterback. Though Brady would return stronger than ever in 2009, the injury had a lasting impact. The NFL moved swiftly to outlaw low hits on quarterbacks, especially when defenders went at or below the knees. The Brady rule became a permanent part of player protection, designed to preserve the league's most valuable position. Johnny Knox, 2011. December 18, 2011, Soldier Field, Chicago. Wide receiver Johnny Knox caught a pass and was hit from behind, folding violently backward into another defender. His back bent in a way no body was meant to bend. He immediately clutched the turf, unable to move. Trainers immobilized him as teammates watched in stunned belief. Knox had suffered a fractured vertebra and severe nerve damage. Emergency surgery followed, but the damage was permanent. At just 25 years old, Knox's career was finished. He would endure years of pain and multiple surgeries, later walking with difficulty, but never returning to football. The injury led the NFL to reinforce rules against peel-back blocks and blindside collisions that exposed receivers to devastating hits. For players, Knox's fall was a stark reminder of how quickly a promising career can end. Once a rising star in Chicago's offense, Knox's name lives on as one of the most tragic examples of the game's dangers. His injury became a symbol of just how violent and unforgiving the NFL can be. Ryan Shazier, 2017. December 4th, 2017. The Pittsburgh Steelers faced the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday Night Football, a rivalry already known for brutal hits and physicality. In the first quarter, linebacker Ryan Shazier lowered his helmet to make a tackle. On contact, his body went limp. He rolled onto his back, hands grasping at nothing, legs unmoving. Trainers sprinted onto the field. The stadium, once roaring, fell into a stunned silence. Shazier was immobilized and carted off, raising a hand as the crowd cheered through tears. Hours later, doctors confirmed the devastating news. A spinal contusion had left him paralyzed from the waist down. For months, his fight wasn't about football. It was about walking again. The image of Shazier standing at the 2018 NFL Draft, announcing a pick for his team, became one of the most emotional moments in league history. The NFL responded by intensifying its focus on helmet safety. Soon after, the league outlawed lowering the crown of the helmet to initiate contact, an effort to reduce catastrophic neck and spine injuries. Shazier never returned to the field, but his recovery inspired millions. His story became a painful reminder that even routine tackles can alter a life forever. Alex Smith, 2018. November 18, 2018. Washington quarterback Alex Smith dropped back against the Houston Texans. As two defenders converged, Smith was twisted and driven into the turf. His right leg snapped, a compound fracture of both tibia and fibula. Fans instantly recalled Joe Theismann's infamous break, eerily on the same date at the same stadium. But Smith's nightmare was worse. Post-surgery, infection set in. Sepsis spread. Doctors considered amputation. He endured 17 surgeries, months in a military-grade leg brace, and years of rehabilitation. Miraculously, Smith returned to the NFL in 2020. When he stepped back onto the field, it was hailed as one of the most courageous comebacks in sports history. Still, the injury left its mark on the league. It renewed emphasis on quarterback protection, sack techniques, and medical innovation for trauma recovery. Damar Hamlin, 2023. On January 2nd, 2023, Monday Night Football, Bills vs. Bengals. Safety Damar Hamlin made a routine tackle. He stood, adjusted his face mask, then collapsed. His heart had stopped. For more than 9 minutes, medical personnel performed CPR on the field. Players knelt, many in tears, as the stadium fell silent. Millions watched in horror as the game was suspended. A rare acknowledgement that football itself no longer mattered. Hamlin was rushed to the hospital, where he was revived and stabilized. Days later, he awoke and asked doctors the question that defined his spirit. Did we win? The league responded, mandating enhanced emergency action plans, expanded AED availability, and increased CPR training at every venue. Hamlin's collapse underscored the fragility of life and the importance of preparation. Miraculously, Hamlin recovered and returned to play the following season, a symbol of resilience and hope. From Chuck Hughes to Damar Hamlin, from broken bones and lost careers, these were the moments when football stood still. Each injury carried tragedy. Each one carried lessons. And each one pushed the NFL closer to safety, to awareness, to humanity. The game will always be dangerous, but it will never forget the players who paid the heaviest price.